My name is Agnes Hailstone. I'm married to Edward Hailstone. We call him Chip.
I'm Edward Hailstone. I'm a subsistence hunter.
One time, Agnes Hailstone disappeared, leaving fans of Life Below Zero faced with unanswered questions. She had captured their hearts with her determination and skills. Yet a time came when it seemed she had vanished into thin air. Was it a mere choice to retreat deeper into the wilderness, or was something more serious at play? Join us as we unveil the details of what happened to Agnes Hailstone from Life Below Zero. The Silent Storm. What truly happened to Agnes Hailstone? Agnes Hailstone was never just another face on television. As one of the standout figures in Life Below Zero, she became known for her fearless spirit, her resilience in extreme Arctic conditions, and her deep roots in Inupiaq tradition. But over time, many fans began to notice her sudden absences and the silence surrounding her personal life. What happened to this strong woman who once faced the wild head-on, with nothing but a rifle and wisdom passed down through generations? When Life Below Zero aired without Agnes Hailstone for the first time in 2020, viewers felt a sudden emptiness. For years, Agnes's steady presence, gutting fish by hand, tracking moose through fresh snow, and guiding her daughters had become the show's emotional anchor. So when she did not appear in that one episode, concern rippled through the fan community. Social media threads lit up overnight with questions. Is Agnes all right? And what stopped her from filming this week? The absence of any official announcement only made the worry worse. Fans who had come to see her rugged determination and gentle wisdom were left confused, as if a key part of the show's heart had paused beating. Producers at this point did not explain Agnes's absence, and that quiet only made the speculations louder. Some wondered if a dangerous Arctic storm had trapped her at camp, making safe travel impossible. Others feared she might have suffered an injury, probably at a location where medical care was quite distant. A few even whispered about family emergencies or health challenges. Some of the comments ranged from hopeful prayers to more anxious theories, like mechanical failures of snow machines or sudden illnesses. Without confirmation, every rumor carried weight. The community's collective heart grew heavy, united in unease over Agnes's fate. Rumors about her departure continued, but thankfully, she returned in the next episode, standing strong in front of the camera, just as she does in the face of each Arctic winter. Her return was a moment of pure relief for those who had come to admire her. Fans felt joy seeing her again, knowing she was safe. Well, only a few years earlier, another dark chapter had tested the Hailstone family's resilience. In 2011, Chip Hailstone faced serious charges that shocked fellow cast members and fans. Accusations of false statements and perjury over incidents involving his children led to a rapid legal process. When the court handed him a sentence of 15 months behind bars, fans watched in disbelief as he became an inmate rather than a hunter. The news devastated Agnes and their daughters, who suddenly left without their partner and father. The cameras recorded their pain in subtle moments, with empty coffee mugs on the table, the hush of their home without Chip's laughter, and the tension in Agnes's eyes as she tried to steady her girls through each day. With Chip behind bars, Agnes found herself navigating the unforgiving wilderness and the focus of national television at the same time. She had to hunt more often, splitting firewood twice as much, and teach her daughters every skill Chip once led. The physical labor was so much on her, pulling heavy loads, mending nets with frozen fingers, and feeding hungry mouths before dawn. Yet, despite the struggles, stress, and work involved, Agnes kept the show running. During some moments, she admitted that meals tasted somehow without her husband's company, and that the weight of responsibility sometimes felt too heavy to bear. Still, she pressed on. Her voice trembled when discussing her lonely nights, yet she refused to let whatever loneliness or emotional pain she was going through, win. Through her determination, Agnes transformed tragedy into a testament to survival, showing viewers that strength often grows darkest before dawn. News of Chip's imprisonment and Agnes's struggles led to an outpouring of empathy, far beyond the show's usual audience. Hashtags pleading for his release trended online, with strangers urging then-President Donald Trump to intervene. Fans shared stories of how life below zero had brought them hope, and they felt compelled to give back. Care packages arrived at their home filled with lots of warm clothes, preserved foods, and written notes of encouragement. Even small towns nearby organized viewing parties where donations were collected for the family. Through this rally of goodwill, Agnes and her daughters discovered they were not alone in their fight. The world beyond the Arctic had their backs, proof that storytelling on screen can create real bonds off camera. When Chip was finally released, the reunion was both joyous and bittersweet. Cameras captured Agnes running into his arms, tears freezing on their cheeks. For a moment, the Hailstones seemed whole again. Yet the challenges did not vanish overnight. They still faced rebuilding their daily routines, healing fractured trust, and confronting the societal judgments that followed Chip's legal troubles. But having weathered months of hardship apart, they approached each other with renewed compassion. Agnes, who had learned to stand alone, now allowed herself to lean on her husband once more. Together, they were able to confront every fear and uncertainty about the future. Even after Chip's return, the Hailstones created a form of peace between their private pain and the show's demands. Episodes filmed in 2021 and beyond documented more than hunts and ice travel. They revealed quiet moments of reflection. Viewers saw Agnes pausing by a frozen river, staring at the horizon as if she were seeking some answers. They watched Chip's gentle hand on her shoulder as he steadied her during a snowstorm. This blend of documentary and real life was one thing, as no script could fully capture the weight of worry she had faced all her life. Through these struggles, her unexplained absence, Chip's imprisonment, and the relentless trials of remote living, Agnes Hailstone emerged as a quiet pillar of endurance. She never sought sympathy or the spotlight. Her strength lay in facing each hardship without any form of regret. In her silence, she spoke loudly about survival's true cost and the bonds that hold a family together. These struggles were not all that Agnes faced. Living in such an environment as Agnes came with lots of struggles and challenges. Summer in Norvik felt gentler, but it came with its suffering. Mosquitoes and black flies were everywhere. Agnes used homemade netting over her head and around her sleeves, but the biting insects found a way out. By most evenings, her legs were filled with marks of insect bites. She carried smoke branches to keep bugs away, but even the smoke affected her eyes and made her cough. Fishing in summer was as hard as hunting in winter. Agnes would cast lines through ice holes in spring, but in open water, she had to balance on slippery banks. Once, a sudden gust flipped her skiff, spilling her gear into the river. She swam in her heavy clothes, grabbed her pack, and fought the current back to shore. That night, she lit the smallest fire she could to warm. Medical help was far away because Norvik had a small health clinic but no hospital. When a child fell from a roof and broke an arm, Agnes had to set the bone herself. She wrapped splints with strips of cloth and held ice against swelling. If a fever rose too high, she gave doses of antibiotics she had ordered by mail and kept an eye on each child's breath. On stormy nights, she used a satellite phone to call a nurse hundreds of miles away, her fingers trembling over keys as she described symptoms. Every second counted when a wound risked infection. She lay awake beside her daughters, listening to each breath, ready to warm blankets or offer sips of hot tea. In 2020, a global pandemic grounded flights and scrapped winter supplies. Agnes pulled cans of salmon from a hidden cache and boiled snow for water. When hunger and cold threatened to overwhelm them, she whispered words of hope in Inupiaq, the old language, teaching her daughters to repeat the song that meant, "Be strong." Each verse was a link to ancestors who had survived similar hardships centuries before. Financial worry never left her. Selling smoked fish and furs to buyers in Anchorage brought little comfort when shipping costs soared. One winter, a fire in the smokehouse bankrupted their small stock. Agnes watched for days as flames consumed racks of drying fish, the acrid smoke stinging her lungs. Insurance was a distant idea. Rebuilding meant long days stacking fresh racks, cutting more wood, and praying for clear weather. Tourists once paid for survival trips, but when the economy dipped, they canceled. Agnes kept notes by candlelight, marking each expense. But what was life like for Agnes before the spotlight? Before the spotlight, a life carved by ice. Before cameras followed her every move, Agnes was already surviving the harsh Alaskan environment. Born and raised in Norvik, a remote village near the Kobuk River, her childhood was one of constant survival, where hunting wasn't a skill, but a necessity. Her deep connection with nature and the traditions of her ancestors molded her into someone who could face near impossible odds. Agnes Hailstone's life began in a place few outsiders ever see, a tiny settlement on the edge of the Arctic Circle, where winter lasts most of the year and every day is a test of will. Norvik, Alaska, lies 19 miles north of that invisible line, perched on the banks of the Kobuk River. Here, fewer than 700 souls carve out a living in temperatures that can drop well below zero. It was into this world, forged by ice and wind, that Agnes was born on June 14, 1972. Her parents named her after Hurricane Agnes, which had destroyed parts of the United States only weeks before her arrival. That storm's impact showed just how harsh the land and environment Agnes would grow into. From her very first breath, Agnes was part of an ancient custom. She belonged to the Inupiaq people, whose ancestors had lived in these frozen wastelands for countless generations. Long before now, her forefathers hunted caribou across endless tundra, fished the icy river by torchlight, and learned to read the subtle signs of weather and wildlife. Every lesson they passed on became a lifeline. By the time Agnes could walk, she was already watching elders mend nets and fashion snares. By the time she could talk, she was asking questions about which rocks to break for fire, how to judge the color of the river ice, and which wolf tracks meant danger. In her childhood, curiosity was not merely encouraged, it was an essential part of their life and a means for survival. No school in her area could have prepared Agnes for the classroom she found at home. Agnes learned to gut her catch with swift, sure strokes, and to hang fish in smokehouses built from driftwood. In autumn, when caribou herds thundered across the tundra signaled the coming freeze, she and her siblings went through the snow to set nets. She learned that food was never something to take for granted. Her deep connection to the land grew stronger each year. She was taught that survival meant more than catching an animal. It meant caring for one another. By the time she was 10, she could pilot a small skiff across open water, keep herself warm through long nights, and spot distant flocks of geese against a gray sky. Agnes became more than just a survivor. She became a symbol of her people's endurance. Her hands learned to use tools passed down through generations. The Mosin Nagant rifle, produced in the millions, became part of her daily life. So did the ulu knife, an Inuit tool every young girl was taught to master. This knowledge was not optional, it was essential. Life in the Arctic demanded it. The girls in her community learned early how to prepare meat, make clothing, and handle weapons for protection and hunting. These traditions were passed down from elders, continuing a long cycle of teaching that allowed them to thrive in the coldest corners of the world. When Agnes turned 19, she became a mother for the first time. Her eldest daughter, Iriktak, was born in 1991, cementing Agnes's role not only as a child of the land, but as a guide for the next generation. Even then, she knew that raising a daughter in Norvik would require lessons different from most mothers. She began teaching Iriktak how to track ptarmigan across white fields, how to test river ice with a slender pole, and how to recognize the faint, distant sound of a nearby herd. By the time Iriktak could walk, she could carry a small load of firewood, and by her first birthday, she knew to reach for the thick mittens that Agnes would set near the door. It was shortly after her daughter's birth that Agnes met a man who would become her husband, Chip Hailstone. Originally from Kalispell, Montana, he had come to Alaska on a short break. Chip Hailstone was born in Kalispell, Montana, in the year 1969. His early life was shaped by nature and the outdoors. From the time he was a boy, Chip spent countless hours learning how to fish, hunt, and make tools. His parents, Daniel and Mary Hailstone, taught him how to live off the land. They showed him the value of hard work, patience, and respect for the earth. He wasn't raised around big cities or crowded places. Instead, Chip grew up surrounded by rivers, trees, and animals. These early experiences gave him a deep love for the wild, which later guided his path. The environment there captivated him so powerfully that he never went back. Chip and Agnes married in 1998, after Agnes's previous marriage that ended in heartbreak. Their bond was formed through shared hardship, icy rivers, tents in the winds, and meals prepared by headlamps on frozen ground. By the early 2000s, Agnes and Chip were raising 7 children on that same stretch of riverbank. Every birthday brought a different kind of gift: a small rifle for hunting ptarmigan, a set of steel traps for beaver, or a sled for firewood. No one in Norvik asked for toy cars or video games. Instead, each child learned to earn their food. Sitka, the youngest, once sat in Agnes's lap as she carefully taught him to gut a fish. Queeton, their second daughter, proudly set a snare at the edge of a willow thicket on her 9th birthday. By their teenage years, Iriktak and Queeton could navigate river currents and build temporary shelters if storms struck without warning. Agnes's daily routine scarcely changed with the seasons. In spring, she would break river ice by hand, carving channels for fish to swim upstream, fish that would sustain her family through the long freeze. In summer, she harvested wild berries, drying them for winter use. Autumn meant hauling moose carcasses from distant tundra, and in winter, she guided her family on dog sled runs. Her hands bore the scars of countless tasks, from a split knuckle to faded marks and tiny burn scars. In all those years, Agnes never stepped outside Alaska's borders, as she had no desire to leave. Her roots ran too deep. She could trace her family tree back to when her great-great-grandmother first settled on that riverbank, guided by ancient customs which no map could show. Every rock, every tree, every bend of the Kobuk River felt familiar. Yet despite this unbroken link to history, modern life came knocking in the form of the show, Life Below Zero, The Hailstones, and Life Below Zero. Soon, Agnes witnessed a small generator powering dim lights in the cabin, and a satellite dish bringing in news of the outside world. When a veteran film crew arrived in 2013 to capture life in Norvik, Agnes agreed on one condition: that they respect her family's privacy and hardships, as she knew the risks of sharing her world. She made clear rules: no filming during storms, no cameras in the girls' bedrooms, no interviews when grief was fresh. She did not want pity or praise. She wanted viewers to see the truth, that living here demanded every ounce of cunning, courage, and care a person could summon. She did not crave fame. She wanted only to share a truthful glimpse of her world. All through, Life Below Zero has been recognized as a real-life TV show that follows people living far from cities in Alaska. These people survive by hunting, fishing, and using nature to meet their needs. The show is made by BBC Studios and is shown on National Geographic. It shares how these strong men and women live through freezing weather and face tough challenges every day. They do not live with modern comforts, but depend on old ways of survival. The show helps viewers understand how hard, yet beautiful, life in the wild can be. It's honest and raw, and shows true human strength and spirit. When Life Below Zero began airing, viewers saw the Hailstones as tough, hard-working people. Few realized that behind each scene, Agnes was carrying burdens that would have crushed many. Her role meant she had to teach her daughters not only how to make a net, but also how to face loss when a winter hunt failed, or when a child fell ill, and a plane could be days away. She guided them through grief when elders passed on, and when storms tore at their cabin's roof, flooding their pantry. Each trial demanded that Agnes stay calm, that she show no fear, even when her heart pounded. As time went on, the show earned Primetime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Cinematography in 2015, and consecutive wins from 2018 to 2022. With all these successes, Agnes remained grounded. She watched from her simple cabin as the world praised images of her ice-filled home. Yet she never let the praises change her. To her, Emmy's trophies were no replacement for full meat catches or the safety of her children. Agnes's appearance on the show was not just about fame, it was about showing the world how to live with the land, not against it. With over 135 episodes to her name by 2021, she became one of the central figures of the series. Interestingly, every fan will notice the unconventional tattoo Agnes has on her chin, in the form of 4 vertical lines, but usually counted as 3, the inner of which is thicker. In Inupiat culture, this bodily marking means that she's ready to face the wilderness and survive. She obtained hers as a mere teenager. Agnes's 3 thin lines under her chin are far more than decoration. They are a traditional Inuit tattoo, marking who she is and where she comes from. Long ago, Inuit women received similar markings in ceremonies that blended art with ritual. The ink was made from soot or crushed soot mixed with oil, and each line was carefully hand-punched into the skin using a needle or sharpened bone. For Agnes, those 3 lines tell a story of coming of age, of learning to hunt and feed her family, and of standing strong through long winters. They speak of her first successful hunt, and the first time she watched her daughter take her first steps on hard, frozen ground. Every time she looks in the mirror, she sees her ancestors smiling back, women who survived storms in tents and taught their children to read the ice. In recent years, many Inuit have chosen to revive these tattoos after decades when the practice nearly vanished. Agnes wears hers with quiet pride. Her face bears a living link to thousands of years of Arctic history, a promise that no matter how cold the wind blows, her roots will hold her steady. Through decades of sunlit summers and moonless winters, Agnes's children grew into their roles. Iriktak became a mother herself in 2016. How to tie a deer hide, how to track wind direction, all passed on again. In a place shaped by ice and wind, Agnes Hailstone lived a life few could imagine. She never craved comfort or convenience. Instead, she chose to honor the ways of her ancestors, to teach her daughters the same rules that had kept her mother alive. Agnes Hailstone's life on the frozen banks of the Kobuk River was a daily battle against the elements. Temperatures often plunged below -50 degrees, a cold that felt alive, moving through every layer of clothing. Each morning, Agnes layered wool long underwear, thick fleece pants, and a heavy parka lined with caribou fur. Hunting in this frozen world was as much a test of courage as of skill. Agnes Hailstone has proven time and again that she is the most skilled when it comes to survival in the Alaskan wilderness. Her experience with hunting armor is unmatched, even by her husband. Agnes's hunting, a skill for survival. Ever since she was a young girl, she has relied on her hunting skills. This early training shows in everything she does. Viewers of the show can easily see her natural talent whenever she is out in the wild tracking animals. She chooses to rely on an old but trusted weapon, the Mosin Nagant 3-line rifle model 1891. This firearm is a Russian bolt-action made that was first made more than 100 years ago. Around 40 million of these rifles have been built over the years, proving how dependable they are. Still, in the year 2022, there are many new and better hunting armor available. Despite this, Agnes prefers to stick with what she knows best. That old rifle has served her well for a long time, and she sees no need to replace it. Along with her rifle, Agnes also carries a special knife wherever she goes. This tool is not just any knife, it has its name. She calls it ulu. This blade is used for many different tasks and is a part of her daily life in the wilderness. Whether she is cleaning fish, skinning animals, or preparing food, ulu is always with her. What makes Agnes stand out even more is her talent for hitting faraway targets without needing a scope. She is known for her sharpshooting skills, which remind some people of a famous figure from the past. Simo Heiha, a Finnish sniper during the Second World Conflict, had more than 500 confirmed hits. Like him, Agnes often wears white clothing, so she can blend into the snowy background. This makes it hard for animals to see her when she is out hunting. She often goes hunting by herself, though she sometimes teams up with her husband. She trusts her old rifle, wears her white outfit, and steps into the snow ready for the task. No one does it better. Her calm focus and sharp aim make her the best at what she does. Every time she steps out with her rifle, she brings years of knowledge and a steady hand. People who watch her on screen are always amazed at how she moves and shoots with such confidence. One moment that showed her skill was when she and her husband went hunting for a muskox. This was the first time she had ever aimed at this kind of animal. Her husband, Chip, was by her side to help guide her through the hunt. He offered advice and shared his knowledge, but it was Agnes who had to take the shot. The first bullet did not hit the mark, but she stayed calm, took her time, and pulled the trigger again. This time, her aim was perfect. The second shot hit the muskox cleanly, bringing the hunt to a quick end. This moment was just one of many that proved how much Agnes relies on her instincts. She stays steady even when things do not go as planned. Her courage and ability to stay calm make her stand out. Many others would have panicked after missing the first shot, but not Agnes. She adjusted quickly and made sure the job was done right. Agnes does not rely on modern gear or the latest armor used for hunting. Her tools may be old, but she knows exactly how to use them. Her knowledge is deep, and she moves through the snow like someone who was born to live in such a place. Her choice to use what she is familiar with instead of trying the newest gadgets says a lot about her. She values what has worked for her and does not need anything flashy or new to prove her skill. When people think of strong women surviving in the hardest places on Earth, Agnes often comes to mind. She has become a symbol of strength, patience, and a deep understanding of nature. Her way of life is not easy. The cold is harsh, food is never guaranteed, and every day brings a new test. Still, she handles all of this with a quiet strength that earns her respect from fans around the world. Even though she came back quickly, That short absence reminded everyone just how real and dangerous the conditions were for those living in such isolated places. The bond between the people on the screen and those watching at home is strong. But the wild is unforgiving, and no amount of cameras or fame can protect anyone from its dangers. The risks are always there, and things can change in an instant. Agnes's brief disappearance showed how fragile life can be in these remote lands. For the audience, it was a wake-up call. These shows are not just entertainment. They are windows into lives filled with real risks. People like Agnes do not have the safety nets that many others enjoy. Her world is raw, wild, and often dangerous. Through it all, Agnes continues to live the way she always has, with love, skill, and calm strength. She trusts her old tools, follows her instincts, and respects the land that gives her life. There is a reason so many people look up to her. She does not just survive, she thrives. Every shot she takes, every step she walks in the snow, shows who she is. A hunter, a survivor, a woman who has made the frozen wild her home. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.